Let's get some more perspective on that now. Joining us here in studio, Brad Carr is the CEO of Mattamy Homes Canada, and still with us, Corporate Director Carol Stephenson. Carol also serves on the board of Mattamy, so it's great to get your perspective. I know you think a lot about these housing issues. Brad, first of all, for you heard all the outlined plans on addressing housing supply over the long term. As someone in the industry, what was your perspective on that?
Well, first of all, we were encouraged by the number of announcements. We're encouraged by the focus, not only by the federal government, by the provincial governments as well. The housing conversation is a national conversation. We understand that. And while I think that a lot of them are trending in the right direction, unfortunately, John, I don't think it's enough. And I'm anxious to see announcements turn into action.
And the complicated part here, too, is, and this comes up every time we talk about the government talking about something on housing, is housing requires, a coordinated effort by a federal government and a provincial government and municipal leaders, and then companies like yours as well. So do you feel confident that all trains are moving in the same direction right now?
Confident that everybody wants to be in the conversation, not confident that everybody will cooperate. And I think how we play in the sandbox right now is so important. We've already heard some pushbacks from various provinces in terms of receiving the infrastructure funding that the federal government announced. So we just need to see everybody pulling in the same direction.
Yeah. Carol, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm a bit of a skeptic on the target that they have for the end of the budget timeframe. Brad and I were talking earlier about the numbers. Housing starts are about 200,000 a year. And I mean, to get to 3.8 million, you've got to double that. And when you think about housing, you need land, you need permits. I mean, we were talking earlier in the last segment about speed. The U.S. on this issue is so much faster on permitting than we are in Canada. So I'm encouraged, as Brad said, that we're at least talking about it, and hopefully we'll have good outcomes from some of the initiatives. But I'm a little skeptical on I guess I call it the aggressive target. And then the other thing that I found a little confusing reading the housing budget is that felt like it was a housing budget, is that it's like we threw something at the wall and we want to see what sticks. And if supply is the biggest issue, we also threw some initiatives that increase demand. And it doesn't seem like that makes sense, the right and the left hand. Why are we trying to increase demand when we have a supply problem? Yeah. So I kind of wish that they had focused a bit more and set priorities. We're going to do these first, see how they work, followed by the next group. But having said that, they had to do something, and so here we are.
I mean, I will say we are watching in real time right now, given the number of new Canadians. We're trying to figure out to have a roadmap for a growing economy over the long term. We should point out there are some economies around the world that have similarly aging populations and big questions about their growth. But I think we've seen the growing pains, and we've seen that directly through the housing market. Brad, for you, just for the record here, I mean, are you building as many homes as you would like to? Or, Carol, kind of talking about some of the red tape, does that ultimately get in the way of you actually reaching the kind of goals that you would want to and just being a builder?
Yeah, 100%. There's more. This is a multifaceted problem.
Yeah.
Let's all agree with that.
Sure.
Approvals and the speed of approvals are one of the #1 issues. We can't get the land we have through the approval environment fast enough to build as many as we'd like. And then even if we can get them approved for housing, there isn't enough skilled labor. And so one of the things, to Carol's point around doubling supply to meet that 3.8 million home goal, there isn't enough trades to do it. So even if we could magically wave a wand and get all the land approved, there isn't enough people today to build it.
I mean, so go ahead.
I was just going to say, just to show the contrast that I made between Canada and the U.S., 7 to 8 years from having the land to get all your approvals before you start building. And in the U.S., 2 to 3 years.
Which you see, too, because Mattamy is operating in both.
And so you see a real contrast in the environment in which we're building in both countries. And speed is not our friend in Canada.
So what do you think, Brad, that means in terms of this issue of housing affordability at the end of the day? I think that's what we're trying to figure out, right? We keep talking about how, and they have stats on it now, because everyone's been talking about productivity for decades, but I feel like I'm saying productivity every second word right now, and it makes sense, when people have to spend so much time and energy thinking about the cost of a home and the borrowing costs against that home, it can take away from those other opportunities to, you have your home, now you go out and you start your business and you grow that business and you help grow the economy. So when you think about the affordability story over the long term, how do you feel about what it's going to actually look like?
I remain optimistic for the long term. I'm concerned in the medium to short term.
Okay.
I believe there's very long cycle times to solve a housing crisis. I also think that we need generational thinking around housing, not election cycle thinking. So we can't make decisions that are good sound bites for 4 years from now. We need to make decisions that are good for the 10 and 20-year plan to grow the housing stock in Canada. I also think we need to think of immigration as a solution to the housing crisis, not a cause of it. And what I mean by that is we need to immigrate more people to Canada who want to build homes, not just buy homes. And I'm talking about matching skilled labor to who we're bringing into the country. We need many, many more skilled trades. Education will be a part of that, but immigration has to play a key role in scaling up our skilled labor.
And for anyone who's listening to Ottawa, because you've definitely talked about the labor component as one of the key hurdles that you're navigating right now, what else would help?
Speed of supply. And what the government is talking a lot about, which is great, is speeding up construction. Manufactured housing, things that impact the cycle time of actually building the home. And while that's really important, and we encourage them to continue on that path, and we will participate in that, it's speeding up the approvals, as Carol mentioned, that is the true roadblock right now. We need to encourage municipalities, provinces, and the feds to increase spending on infrastructure, which they said they would, but it comes with a lot of strings. So let's make sure that governments are cooperating and moving quickly.
And Carol, a final word to you, just in terms of thinking about our roadmap ahead. Could be housing or anything else.
I think the roadmap ahead that has me thinking since I read the 400 plus pages is execution. And, Brad talked about it in housing. There are a lot of initiatives here. And there's some initiatives from the last budget that weren't implemented, and we've got like a ton more. So it kind of goes back to my point about focus, priorities, and outcomes. Can we really accomplish everything that we've set out to do in this budget in the time frame that we have? And it requires really skilled execution.